Today on Legally Us, the legal battle that lies ahead for Britney Spears amid her split with Sam. Plus, Brielle Biermann is sued by American Express for an unpaid bill. And Raquel Leviss doubles down at her claim that Chyna punched her. All that and so much more on today's Legally Us. Hello and welcome to Legally Us. I am not Christina. Christina's on vacation this week, much deserved, and I am here with our favorite lawyer, Neama. Neama Rahmani is the CEO, of course, of West Coast Trial Lawyers. I love that you join us every week to break down our legal stories that we need some help with.
Thanks, Mandy. Love being on, and thanks for covering for Christina.
Of course. So let's get right into it. I'm really interested in this Britney Spears story. There's lots of different stories, lots of different sources going on. So let me just break it down for us before we get into it. So obviously on Wednesday, news broke that Britney Spears and Sam had decided to separate after 14 months of marriage. Britney and Sam, of course, were madly in love going into their nuptials on June of 2022. And the singer made sure to protect her assets in case of a split. So a source previously told Us Weekly that Britney and Sam signed an ironclad prenup agreement that tightly guards the singer's estimated $60 million fortune, which I can't believe it's $60 million. But anyway, we'll get into that. The prenup states that Sam will receive $1 million per every 2 years of their marriage, with a cap at $10 million after 15 years, according to the source. Sam also waived any claims to Spears' music catalog, and his name isn't on the deed of their shared home. Instead, the pair agreed to put the house into a limited liability company, or LLC. The insider shared that Spears found the finer points of the negotiations overwhelming, but she's obviously likely thankful now that she has it in place. But according to TMZ, Sam cited, of course, irreconcilable differences, and is also asking the star to pay spousal support and his attorney fees now. His lawyer, Neil Hirsch, also alluded to the fact that he might contest their prenup. He said the court documents read, he has yet to determine the full nature and extent of the separate property assets and obligations of each party. There are various items of community and quasi-community assets and debts, the full nature and extent of which are unknown to Sam at this time. A source also told Page Six that Sam allegedly wants to renegotiate their prenup in return for keeping her secrets. They said attempting to negotiate concessions beyond his prenup and threatening to go public with extraordinarily embarrassing information about Britney unless he gets paid. Page Six has also learned that Britney has hired powerhouse attorney, divorce attorney Laura Wasser, Kevin Federline's attorney, to add more complications to this, also exclusively confirmed to Page Six that if Sam contests his prenup agreement, that could lead to a modification in child support payments to Kevin. Mark Vincent Kaplan told Page Six, if she's seeking to modify the child support that she pays Kevin because she no longer has the same degree of ability to pay what she did prior to her divorce with Sam, then she would have to be litigated in the child support court. So they share two sons, Sean Preston, who's 17, and Jaden, who is 16, with Federline. Lots of questions for you on this one. It's very complicated. So I guess my first question is, can Sam modify a prenup at this point?
Mandy, so much going on here. In the interest of disclosure, living and working here in LA, Sam Asghari used to live in my friend's guest house, but I'm going to answer all the questions related to him. And let's start with child support for Britney's kids. So for there to be a modification in child support, there has to be a substantial change in circumstances. That means Britney Spears' income has to have changed significantly. And even if she ends up paying Sam a couple $1 million when she's worth $60 million, that's not going to be a significant change in circumstances. Okay. And the kids are a little bit older. They're about 16, 17. Child support stops when they're 18. So any change will only be effective for a year or two anyway. Okay,
yeah. Is it even worth it at this point to make a change like that when they're almost 18? I feel like there's no point. Just keep paying it for
I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Britney's legal strategy here is going to be to wrap this divorce up as quickly as possible and not re-engage her ex Kevin Federline over child support issues. She's going to want to walk away from any legal problems, especially after she got out of that multi-year conservatorship.
Absolutely. Will the conservatorship they can't do anything about this anymore, right? Like do they have any say over anything over her right now?
Not at all. So when you're under conservatorship, you can be under conservatorship of your person, so you can't make legal decisions. So if Britney Spears was indeed under conservatorship, she couldn't get divorced, she couldn't get married, but that's all been terminated. Yeah. And there's also a financial component of a conservatorship that would address any finances, but since the conservatorship is terminated, the conservator, the former conservator, will have nothing to do with Britney's divorce here.
Do you think Sam has a case? Do you think he could possibly get more money, spousal support, or have her pay for the attorney fees?
I don't think so. I haven't reviewed the prenup personally, but based on what's been reported, it's pretty ironclad. And, here's something I would warn Sam against. He said that he may publicly release damaging information to try to renegotiate that prenup. Well, that's extortion under California law. You can't threaten to release something for some sort of financial gain. You can do it, but you can't make the threat. And gaining leverage in a civil dispute, including a divorce, is financial gain. So Sam has to tread very lightly. And that's setting aside any NDA or non-disparagement agreement that the parties have signed. I mean, if they've done that, that may be another legal basis for liability. But even if there is no such agreement, you can't make that threat.
Also, Neama, on a personal note, I don't know if you follow Britney Spears on Instagram, but what more could he have on her? I mean, she posts everything. So, I feel like it's out there. If we know everything.
Yeah, Britney Spears is an open book when it comes to her social media. So I don't know what sort of sleeves what sort of cards Sam has up his sleeve, but I would play those cards a little bit closer to the vest because you don't want to be caught up in some additional legal trouble.
That's good advice. So what does it mean when they said put your house into a limited liability company or LLC? That doesn't mean I own a house, but I have no idea what that means.
Yeah, so an LLC is similar to a corporation. Instead of having shareholders, though, it has members, and those members own the LLC or the limited liability company. So, if there's an LLC, it may be a situation where there's a sole member, Britney Spears. It may be a situation where there are multiple members, Britney Spears and Sam Asghari. So the question is this when it comes to the house, and I'm sure it was covered by the prenup, but was that house separate property that belonged to Britney Spears, and did it continue to remain separate property, or was it somehow transformed into community property, in which case Sam Asghari would be entitled to a piece? Now, there's also a possibility that it was separate property, but some of the mortgage payments were made by the community, in which case it would be mostly separate property, but part of the increase in value or the principal that was paid would belong to the community, and whatever's community property is split 50-50, and whatever separate property remains the separate property of the divorcing spouses.
All right. Well, I'm interested to see where this one goes, and I feel like it's one that we're going to be talking about for quite a while. It might get messy.
Yeah, Hollywood divorces can get very messy, so we'll see if this is one of them.
Yeah, definitely. Well, moving on to another messy family, if you will. Brielle Biermann has been sued by American Express over unpaid credit card debt in a court filing viewed by In Touch magazine on Tuesday, August 22nd. The case was filed in Atlanta's Fulton County Civil Court on Monday, with American Express National Bank listed as the plaintiff and naming Brielle as the defendant. The case type was listed as a contract account, and according to multiple reports, the former Bravo star has an outstanding balance of $12,870.25. Brielle had monthly payments of about $1,300 in the complaint, including a past due amount of $896. She hadn't made any payments since this June, causing American Express to sue her for the full amount, plus court costs. So I have a lot of questions about this too, because I've been late on payments before. This doesn't seem like an astronomical amount that she owes, and her last payment was in June. So is it normal for an American Express to sue someone for a late payment that was due in July, probably?
It's not normal, but that doesn't mean it's not legal. So a party can initiate a breach of contract suit as soon as there's a breach. There's no grace period unless one is allowed for under the agreement. Obviously, we know most credit card companies, they're just going to charge you a late fee and interest and collect. But I think what may be happening in this case is American Express is concerned that this is someone that may not have the ability to pay her debt. So they want to be first in line if they get a judgment, so they can try to enforce that judgment against Brielle. There's other creditors that are there as well. And if you're Brielle, you don't want to be in Fulton County right now. All eyes are there because that's where Donald Trump is going to be arraigned this week.
Yeah, that's an interesting. I didn't even make that connection at all. Yeah, this is interesting. I feel like what would happen if she doesn't pay? Could you get arrested for something like this, for being late on an American Express bill?
The good thing about the United States is you don't go to jail if you don't pay your debts. Now, you can get a judgment against you, and then Amex will have to try to enforce that judgment. The three ways that creditors generally do so is they try to garnish your wages, try to levy or take money out of your bank accounts, or they attach and sell your real property. So just because Amex gets a judgment doesn't mean they're necessarily going to get paid until and unless they can enforce that judgment.
I have to say, I feel for this family a bit right now. I feel like every single late bill right now is like getting written up by the press. We're talking about it, obviously, and all eyes are on their bank accounts because they're in the public eye, and it's messy right now.
It really is. So when you're in the public eye and you have legal problems, doesn't matter if it's a divorce, doesn't matter if it's a creditor issue. I mean, folks are going to be watching because, as we know, these types of lawsuits, doesn't matter whether it's civil or criminal, these are all public filings.
Definitely. All right. Well, moving on to Vanderpump Rules, which I know is one that a story you know very well. So let me just give some background on it to the viewers. So Raquel Leviss has done this sit-down interview with Bethany Frankel. It's been 3 parts. I've watched all of it probably twice at this point. Have you watched it at all?
I have not, but I have read the reports about it.
Okay. All right. You got to watch it. You got to sit down and watch it. It's pretty good, pretty entertaining. But anyway, so she's done this 3-part interview with Bethany, and she is doubling down on claims that her former co-star Chyna Shea punched her upon finding out about the news of her affair with Tom Sandoval. Raquel, who was a bridesmaid in Shea's wedding to Brock Davies in August 2022, alleged in March that Shea punched her in the face backstage at Watch What Happens Live, when she learned that Raquel and Tom were having an affair. Shea, however, denied assaulting Leviss and claimed that her long nails even prevented her from properly forming a fist. Leviss subsequently served Shea with a temporary restraining order, which she ultimately dropped after the reunion later that March. Now, on the recent episode of this Bethany podcast, Raquel insisted, Chyna did physically assault me that night, and I have a permanent scar on my eyebrow. At that moment, I thought I deserved it. That's why I just stood there and let it happen. She pushed me as hard as she could against a brick wall. The back of my head hit the wall pretty hard, and then she socked me in the eye. So lots of questions for you on this one. I guess my first one is, if Chyna still denies this, can she press charges for defamation against Raquel? I don't know if she would even want to do that, but is that something that she could do?
If Chyna did want to pursue a defamation claim, she could. It's really a question for Chyna. She may just want to, ride off into the sunset. She won at that restraining order hearing. If I were Rachel, I would just take the loss here and move on.
Absolutely. I think I agree with you. She also claims that Tom Sandoval is aware of the incident because he overheard Shea comment about it to Ariana. If that is the case, would Tom and Ariana need to be questioned regarding this matter?
Yes. If this case proceeded to court, the other cast members that had information about the alleged incident would be called as witnesses. And folks who were friends of the show that weren't cast members. So we were prepared to present our case and call witnesses, whether it was Ariana, Tom, or anyone else, to prove Chyna's side of the story.
Interesting. And then Leviss also claimed she didn't feel safe after seeing Shea added a fist emoji to an Instagram post caption that read, "Always got your back, fist emoji, hashtag Team Ariana." Generally speaking, if the alleged incident didn't occur, is it possible to request a restraining order over a post that's not directed towards them?
Well, as we saw, people can request a restraining order for any reason. And, the first hearing is ex parte, so it's with a judge, and the judge doesn't hear both sides. But for a permanent restraining order to be granted, there has to be an imminent and credible threat of physical harm. And, if someone could get a restraining order for a post on social media, probably everyone in this country would have a restraining order against them. So this is not what restraining orders are for. They're for actual victims of violence. And one of the reasons why Chyna and her whole team were so upset at Rachel's actions in this case.
Interesting. That makes sense. I mean, a punch emoji is not the same as a punch in real life.
Yeah.
All right. One other thing I wanted to tackle about Raquel's sit down with Bethany is she addressed Andy Cohen's comments that she was heavily medicated during the season 10 reunion. So Bethany said, "I saw there was a pill bottle thrown at the reunion. Somebody said, 'Do you want a Xanax?' I have a Xanax." And that was sort of made light of. And sometimes I think about that. This is it's a non-traditional workplace, but I would imagine there are even some workplace rules in a strip club. It's still a workplace. And I thought a pill bottle's being thrown. Wow, okay. So that was Frankel's comments to Raquel about the whole reunion situation and when Tom Schwartz took out the Xanax bottle. She continued saying, I've read that Andy said to, I think, Variety, that he thought you were medicated, insinuating that you were on prescription drugs. How did that make you feel? So Raquel responded and said, I mean, I am medicated. I've been on antidepressants for several years now, but to say that I have been heavily medicated because my behavior was erratic or I didn't have emotions is not okay in my eyes. I feel like that violates some sort of HIPAA law, and to make assumptions like that, it's damaging to a person. So I just wanted to kind of tackle these comments. Do you think that there's any validity in her saying that he possibly violated HIPAA here?
No, and I feel like I'm always giving Rachel legal advice or correcting her legal arguments, but HIPAA only applies to healthcare providers. Andy Cohen, as far as I know, is not a healthcare provider, so HIPAA doesn't apply to him. Mm-hmm. Second, HIPAA, if there is a violation by an actual doctor, it may subject that provider to discipline, but it's not actionable. You can't file a civil lawsuit and get damages for a HIPAA violation against a non-provider.
Interesting. Okay, that makes sense. I went to my husband's a doctor. I went to his white coat ceremony and he had to say the Hippocratic Oath. Very true. I did not have to say that oath, so I can talk about it all I want.
Exactly. Amanda, you and I can violate HIPAA because we're not doctors. Your husband, not so much.
Not so much. Well, I always love getting your take on these stories. Thank you so much, Neama. And let us know in the comments what you guys thought about Raquel's interview with Bethany, the HIPAA claims, her claiming that Chyna punched her. Let us know everything in the comments, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, everyone. See you next week.
For more news content and exclusive interviews, make sure to hit the sub, like, and bell button down below and visit usmagazine.com.